Hello, everyone. This is Sasha with the LTRC. Thank you for joining us for the biggest mistakes law firms make with Google reviews with our sponsor, Kenect, as part of the LTRC Industry Insight Series held every Wednesday. Our speaker today is McKay Allen. McKay Allen is the VP of Marketing at Kenect. Kenect is the text messaging platform for more than 3,000 law firms throughout the US and Canada. It allows law firms to send and receive text messages from their business phone number, request Google reviews via text, conduct video chats, text with clients, streamline intake, and even generate more leads on their website. McKay lives in Salt Lake City with his wife and 2 children. Thank you all for joining us. We'll now begin the webinar.
So today we're going to talk about some of the mistakes that law firms are making with Google reviews. We'll first take about 5 minutes, explain briefly who Kenect is and what we do. Then we'll dive into kind of a Google Reviews 101 to give you some background, and then do the mistakes. What we found is that it's really difficult to just start with the mistakes and not have a baseline or a foundation. So that's what we'll start with. Okay, let's get started. Based in the Silicon Slopes of Utah, outside of Salt Lake City, we are a text messaging platform built for law firms throughout North America. We have about 4,000 law firms that use the platform. That's going up every single month. And essentially what we do is we keep your we allow you to keep your main law firm phone number and simply make that number textable. So you get the benefits of text messaging without having to give out your personal cell. So everybody in the firm would simply log into Kenect to send text messages to clients. You can assign leads to individuals, to departments. You can make it so only the attorney and the paralegal on that specific client are seeing the leads and seeing the text messages that come in. But basically, this allows you to communicate really efficiently, to generate new leads, to conduct video consultations with text, and then also drive online reviews. As I said, we're integrated with the leading case management systems in the legal industry. You can see we're integrated here with Practice Panther, Filevine, Clio, Salesforce, Litivai, Rocket Matter, CasePacer, and soon Smart Advocate. We're also launching our new integration with Clio Grow coming up soon. So how do we do it? Two-way text messaging for your law firm. Stop giving out your personal cell number. Web leads straight from your website. Video chat for virtual consultation, and then online review generation management, all with text messaging. It's really powerful. Law firms love it of all types and sizes as well. Your clients prefer text messaging. We often get asked why text messaging. Your clients prefer it. 89% of consumers say they would prefer to interact with a business with text messaging rather than with a phone call. We've also seen that text messages are opened. So 98% of all text messages are open, 95% are read within 3 minutes. 96% of clients say they find phone calls to be disruptive. 98% or 78% of US clients say receiving a text message is the fastest way to reach them. Here's the bottom line. For better or worse, texting is the way we communicate with each other. It just is. It's the way we communicate with one another. It is the method we use to easily and quickly reach somebody. So no need to play phone tag and not be able to reach someone to give them a case update. No need for them to play phone tag with you to try to reach you to give you updates about things. Bottom line is, texting is simply the way to communicate with your clients. They don't want to get a bunch of phone calls from you. You can receive, I'll bet you half of you, by the way, are texting somebody right now. And that's what we're talking about. Like, you can do that and be on a webinar at the same time. It works. So how does it work? You log into the Kenect platform from any device, any desktop, any laptop, any smartphone, and you can send text messages directly to and from your main phone number to your customers. You can also download the Kenect mobile app on your smartphone and send and receive text messages to and from the Kenect mobile app, again, with your main law firm phone number. You can also do things like quick replies, request reviews, send photos, videos, PDFs, attachments, DocuSigns, request payment with text messaging, schedule messages to go out, or invite to video chat. You can do all of these things with texting. I mentioned video chat. While you're texting somebody, you just click on this invite to video chat button on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen there. That will send you both a link, you and your client. You both click on that link, and you automatically get sent both of you a link. You click on it, and you're doing a live video chat. This is a great way to streamline intake and do your initial consultation right then and there. For that video chat function, there's no additional software required. You don't need to send a calendar invite with like a Zoom link that's not going to work half the time. You don't need to meet with current client. You can meet with current clients. You can schedule initial consultations. You can do it right then. It's pretty slick. So top 8 ways law firms use Kenect: to schedule consultations, send appointment reminders, to streamline intake, to send case updates, to collect fees, video chat with clients, send and receive photos, videos, PDFs, and attachments. There's just a ton of things you can do with this, including generating reviews. So with that, let's jump into kind of the basics of Google reviews. Now, I see, Richard, your question, I see that. First of all, thanks for jumping on. I will hit that question, so just hang with me and I will make sure I address that. So Google reviews, basics. So what are Google reviews, first of all? Anybody using Google can review your business and leave a star rating. They don't need to be your client. They don't need to be engaging with your business. They just need a Gmail account and they can jump on and leave a review. Google does nothing to ensure that they're your actual client or that their review is truthful. Let me just say that again. Google does nothing to ensure that they're your actual client or that what they're saying in the review is truthful. There's no way for Google to determine that, so they don't really even try. So why do reviews matter? There's a couple reasons. The first is what you're seeing in the blue right there, and that is that clients care about reviews. 90+% of clients use reviews as the first step in choosing a firm. They trust reviews as much as they would trust personal recommendations. I mean, Google determines, and so that's your clients. I shouldn't move on to Google yet. The number one reason that reviews matter is because your clients care about them. Now, keep in mind, if we would have done this webinar 4 or 5 years ago, these numbers probably would have been in like the low 60% range. The other reason reviews matter is because of what you're seeing on the screen now. They matter because Google says they matter. And when Google says something matters, like it or not, we have to pay attention. So Google is determining the order in which law firms are ranked by the number of ratings and reviews that that law firm has. Let me say that again. Google determines the order in which law firms are ranked by the number of ratings and reviews that that law firm has. So if you're not getting a ton of ratings and reviews, you will not be found on Google. Now, why does that matter? That matters because 97% of people in the US go to Google when they want to find a business, and because 98% of clicks are in the top, are going to the top 4 listings. So if you're not in the top 4, you're not going to be found. That's why they matter. So to repeat, they matter for 2 reasons. Number 1, your clients read them, they care about them. Number 2, Google reads them and cares about them and uses them to determine their rankings. So if you're not ranking highly, you will not be found on Google. The question we get a lot is, well, why does Google care? Like, why is Google in the business of getting reviews? Well, it's pretty simple. They have one job, and that is to produce the result the searcher wants to see and is expecting to see, right? If Google stops doing that, Google's engine, their revenue stops, right? Because they can't charge people for ads, they can't do any of that stuff if the searcher is not getting what they want from their Google experience. So how do they determine what the searcher wants to see? Well, if someone wants a law firm in Indianapolis, Google's best bet to give them what they want to see is to give them the best law firms in Indianapolis. And the only way they can determine that is by the reviews. So it's a really significant part of what you should think about when you think about marketing is Google reviews. I would even argue that getting Google reviews may be the most important marketing activity you can engage in. Okay, let's talk about how to get more Google reviews, and then we'll talk about the biggest mistakes that companies make with Google reviews. So what do potential clients want to see in your reviews? They want to see quantity and they want to see recency. You've got to have at least 50 reviews, and you've got to make sure you're getting reviews constantly. You can't just say, okay, in September, I'm going to go get 100 Google reviews and then forget about it forever or for a year. You can't do that because recency matters. So instead of doing that, Go get 12 in September and 12 in October and 12 in November, right? Do that instead of getting 100 in September and not thinking about it again. You've got to have enough reviews and they've got to be recent. So what that means is instead of doing a blitz 1 month, you've actually got to have a process to get reviews. So how can you gather more reviews? Number one is have that process. Make sure you have a written down, defined process to get more reviews. That matters a great deal. If you don't have a written down process, it's going to be very difficult for you to get reviews. Now, what we see a lot of is law firms will, they'll say you got 10 employees. They'll go ask all 10 employees, hey, what's our process for getting Google reviews? And 7 of those employees are going to give them blank stares. And 3 of them are going to say 3 different things, right? That shouldn't be the case. Have a process. Who's in charge of it? How do they ask? Do they ask everybody or just the people that love you? When do they ask? After the case is over or after you've had a great meeting with them during the case process? Like, what is the process? Write it down and make sure everybody knows it. Number 2 on this list is have an internal owner. Make sure someone's in charge of getting you reviews. You've got to have somebody who's in charge of it. If they're not in charge of it, if you don't have anybody in charge of it, it won't happen. Have an owner. Now, if you're large enough to have a marketing person, that person should own it. If you're not, then maybe it's the office manager receptionist person, or maybe it's a partner who's really passionate about it, or maybe it's an attorney. Every attorney's in charge of getting their own reviews, or paralegal, whatever. There's no right answer here, but make sure someone's in charge of it. And then the other thing I would say is compensate them for it. Like if they get you 12 reviews in a month and that's your goal, give them an extra $500. I promise you that's your best marketing money you'll ever spend, is paying that person extra money to get reviews. And then finally, use texting, not email. Now, I'm biased here. We're a texting platform, so I fully admit our bias, but the data backs us up. So if you send an email asking for a review, you're going to get reviews about 1 to 2% of the time. That's not very much. However, if you are texting, you're going to get reviews about 35 to 45% of the time. So how does it work? If you're using Kenect, you simply put in your logo. We help you with that. It's got a template right here that you can use. You don't have to. You can change it, have various templates. You send that text out. They click on the link. They leave the review. They're done. That will work in 35 to 45% of the cases, which is 35 times higher than email at collecting reviews. So the steps to success here: take control. You don't allow angry clients to determine your online reputation. You've got to be proactive and aggressive to get great clients to leave reviews. Don't just sit back and wait and hope. Hope's not a strategy. 2 is build that process and have an owner. 3 is use text messaging, not email. And then 4 is use them in your marketing. There's no need to get reviews and just leave them on Google, right? You can use them on your website, have a review page. You can use them in your marketing, like on Facebook, on billboards, on direct mailers, whatever you want. Just use reviews when you can. All right, let's jump into the mistakes here, and we'll spend about 5 minutes on each one. The first mistake is focusing on the wrong review platforms. Now, we offer support for Facebook and Google reviews. But we have law firms sometimes who are like, it's overwhelming. I totally get it. Because you're like, well, should I get reviews on Yelp? What about Facebook? What about Google? What about Avo? Like, how do I do this? How do I structure? I can't get reviews on all of them. You can't copy and paste reviews from one to another. It's also really clunky to ask clients to post on all 4. So that's really difficult. So how do you choose? Here's how you choose. Where do people go when they want to find an attorney? The answer is very simple. They go to Google. Therefore, Facebook, Yelp, and Avo are simply not as important. Now, that doesn't mean you should never try to get reviews for those, right? If someone doesn't know how to use Google, or they don't have a Gmail account, for both people in the world who don't, you can send them to one of those other 3. But I would double down on getting Google reviews, because again, it impacts your ranking directly. Google reviews are the king. The others are a distant second. I would probably put Yelp last in terms of importance, just because people generally don't think about Yelp for law firms. They think about it for restaurants and tourist attractions, right? But they generally don't think about it for law firms. So just be careful with Yelp. Avo, we know Avo well. They're a wonderful site for people doing in-depth research. You can't ignore it. But again, if someone is just Googling, personal injury firms in South Carolina, they're going to go to Google first. And then Facebook is becoming more important, which is why we offer support for it, right? If you want to get reviews on Facebook, that's great. But again, no one's going to Facebook to search for law firms to find. They're just not. They're going to Google first. So that's the first mistake. And we see a lot of firms, by the way, who are so in on Yelp that they're ignoring Google, and that is the worst mistake you can make. Number 2 is failing to respond to every review. This is also a very common mistake. You've got to respond to every single review. Now, the good ones are easy, right? Thank you so much. It was great working with you. So thrilled for you and your family, blah, whatever you want to say. That's easy. The harder part is responding to negative reviews. Now, Richard, this is where I'll answer your question. So how should you handle negative reviews? This is really important. When does Google take bad reviews down? The answer is very, very, very infrequently. They generally do not take them down. They generally leave them up. And the reason is simple. They don't know if the person who left you the review is telling the truth. The only instance in which Google will take them down is, number 1, if it's blatantly harassing, obscene, threatening, racist, whatever, like they'll take those things down immediately. But if they just get on and say, hey, you guys are dumb, dishonest, and crappy attorneys, they won't take it down. They just won't, because you might be dumb, dishonest, and crappy attorneys. They have no way of knowing, right? The other instance in which they'll take it down is if you can demonstrate or show that the person was not your client, has never been your client, that kind of thing. That's when they'll take it down as well. So you've got to be able to show that. Now, how do you do that? You just log into your Google My Business page and you click on Manage Reviews, and there's a really easy way to just request that they take it down. But it's rare. It's really rare. But you should respond to every review, including the negative ones. So how do you respond to the negative ones? Well, the way you shouldn't respond is with righteous indignation. You should not get on, and this is the third mistake, and just light them on fire with your rage. Because that's what you want to do, right? If they get on and say, you guys are dishonest and bad attorneys, you want to be like, wait a second, you did this wrong. You're a crappy client for this reason. We're not bad attorneys. Your case sucked. Don't do that. I know you want to. I would want to, but don't. Avoid that. Just reply to everything and reply something like this. And I'm sorry you're frustrated. That does sound really frustrating, but my name is McKay. I'm a partner at the firm. Just text our main firm phone number and I will respond personally and we'll get this taken care of. That's all. They're never going to respond. They're mad. But what it does is it stops the argument because you've acknowledged their frustration. And then the second and most important thing that it's done is show the 5,000 people who actually are going to read that reply and are considering you as an attorney. It's going to impress them with your professionalism and your integrity and your kindness and your empathy. That's what it's going to do. Number 4, and this is maybe the most important mistake that firms are making, is not being aggressive enough with getting reviews. Sometimes firms will sit back and wait and just hope that people don't leave negative reviews and then panic when they do. But what you should do is be extremely aggressive in going and getting positive reviews. Because if you're doing that, then the negative reviews don't matter as much. We've seen so many law firms over the years simply panic when they get bad reviews and not do anything and just wait for the next bad review to come in 6 months later. Forget that. Go get 30 good reviews in the meantime, and then one bad review doesn't matter at all. So go get good reviews. Quit worrying so much about your bad ones and go get good ones. Be aggressive. Ask everybody who you know likes you. Text them a lot to get reviews. Go and get these reviews. Be aggressive. So you've got to take action on this. Sitting back and waiting and lamenting about it is not going to help. Okay, before we conclude, I want to go through this case study. So this is a case study from a law firm called Carey, Leisure and Neal. Essentially what they started doing is using Kenect in their intake department, but now they use it across their entire firm. So what they initially wanted to do was use it to help get data into FileVine. They use FileVine. And so they wanted to get texting data and contacts into Filevine. Well, we can do that. That's easy. We integrate with Filevine, Clio, Rocket Matter, Practice Panther, CasePacer, Student Smart Advocate. And essentially what they started to realize was, wait, this does a lot more than help us with intake. We can do video chat during an intake process and the initial consultation. We can use it for Google reviews. We can use it for texting future, past, and current clients. We can live respond to all messages. We can assign leads out to individual attorneys or departments within the firm. Point is, there's 100 ways to use the tool, and they're figuring that out as they go. So they started out again with just a really simple use case, and now they use it for everything.
It does seem like that's all the time that we're going to have for today. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Kenect, and everyone for attending our webinar today. If you're curious about future webinars, you can go to the ABA LTRC page or follow our Twitter at LTRC. I'd also like to thank McKay for presenting today. You can keep up with Kenect at GoKenect on Twitter or Kenect.com. Any last thoughts, McKay?
No, just thanks to the team. Thank you so much for running this, and thanks for the questions and for showing up today.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.